Good afternoon, YouTube friends. Okay, so today I'm working on my deck, putting my deck boards on. There's lots of ways to do it, pros and cons with all of them, and everybody has their own way of doing it. I've seen where people have nailed them on with 2 nails. Those nails end up lifting up, and it ends up that you catch your socks on them, you catch your bare feet on them. Nails is not the way to go. I go with screws. A little bit overkill, but I use 2.5-inch screws. I find that 2.5-inch screws holds it down really well. Now the other thing I do is I don't put 2 screws, because if you put 2 screws on a deck board, especially if it gets wet and as time goes on, it'll start to bow like a dish. I always put 3 screws, 2.5-inch screws, and I put 3 of them on. That makes it so that it can't bow, it's solid, and like I said in the previous video, your screws are one of the most important parts of your deck. Now, this deck is 14.5 feet long. I could have bought shorter boards, 10-foot boards, 12-foot boards, 8-foot boards, but I chose to go with 16-foot boards. And it was a little bit awkward getting it back here because my truck box is 5.5 feet long, so I put 16-foot boards in there, so that was a challenge. So, what happens with your deck boards? When you buy your deck boards, and you don't use them right away, they're going to start warping and twisting and they're going to be in a mess. Most times when you buy your deck boards, same with all pressure treated lumber, it's really wet. And that's what you want. Because if you put a screw into a deck board that's dry, especially when you're at the ends, it'll start to split. So it's nice to have that wet wood. So what I do is I get all my 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s, 4x4s, the whole works. But I don't get my deck boards. I save that till the end. I put my whole deck together. Once my deck is built, then I go out and buy my deck boards. Because then I get some nice wet deck boards, and it's so much easier to screw them down without them splitting. Now, having said that, when you get your deck boards, don't just throw them off in a big pile and a heap on the ground. Stack them, because they will still warp. I had a couple here that were really warped. So I'm going to show you what I do with a warped deck board. Hopefully this all helps you. And if there's something here that you never knew, give me a comment, let me know. I'm curious what you think. So here's what I do. Here we have a deck board. Put it in place. And as you can see, down at this end, it's warped. It's not tight. If I flip that board over, then what will happen is I'll have that bow right in the middle of the board. And I don't want that. So, here's what I do. I get this deck board, and I put it nice and tight. Right down here it's tight, but look at the gap. A huge gap. So what I'll do, so I get this thing nice and tight. I'll throw my 3 screws in it. One, 2, 3. Same on this next joist. 1, 3. And like I say, because this wood is wet, the ends don't split. And that's frustrating when those ends split. So get your wood, even if you want to cover it up. Keep it out of the sun if you can, but always stack it. Okay, so now we've got a warped board. All the way down it's warped. So here's what I do. Head down here to the center, or a third of the way down, or whatever. One screw. There, that warp is gone. There's still a little bit of a warp down there. Then what I'll do, I'll grab another screw. I'll stick this screw in here. Same thing again. You see that gap there? Let's stick this in at the end. Now, there. Now, if you look down this board, there's no gap. So then now I'll proceed to finish doing my screws. Now what you have to do is, when you start it out, hopefully your deck was square. But sometimes it isn't always square, but hopefully it is. So my deck was square. So now what I'll do is every so often I'll come down here and I'll run a tape measure. Okay, and we've got 69.5 inches. Come over here. 69.5 inches. And then I'll come over here. $69.5 inches. So as it turns out, my deck boards, let me get comfortable here for a minute. My deck boards are coming square with my deck. In the event that I start to get off a little bit, let's say it's 69.5 inches down there, and let's say I had 69 3/8 here, 69.5 there, 69 3/8 here, 69 1/4 here. If that's the case, you don't want to keep doing your deck, especially if you got a really deep deck. What you want to do is you want to leave a little tiny gap, ever so slight, and eventually you'll be able to get that so it's even, and then you proceed. I watched the guy doing a video. he got his deck boards, and between every deck board, he put a little piece of wood to make a little gap between each deck board so that every deck board would be perfect. Well, if you leave a little gap or if you put them tight, they should all be the same. The thing is with putting a gap, which I would never do, is these deck boards are wet. They're going to shrink. If I have a 1/8 inch gap between every deck board and they shrink, now I've got maybe a 1/4 inch gap, I don't know. Don't put a gap. Put those things as tight together as you can, because they will shrink and you will get a gap. And once you get your gap, then when you're playing cards and you're out here and your cards fall through the deck, then you'll know they fell through that gap. You're going to get a gap no matter what, but don't purposely make a gap. Put them tight. So my deck boards are all tight. I got this tape measure. I've got the exact same measurement all the way along. I'll just keep putting them tight. And like I say, if all of a sudden my measurement gets off a spec, then I'll leave just as ever so slight gap. So slight that you won't even notice it. Because what happens is if you don't do that, when you get to the end, you're going to have one board that's going to be this wide at one end, it's going to be this wide at the other end. And then it's going to make your whole deck look crooked. Your deck might be crooked, but if you do it like this, then no one's going to notice it's crooked. Only the guy that installed it, that's you. So there you have it. Now what I do on the ends of the deck is I'm going to be putting a fence boards down this front, and let's say they're a 1/4 inch. I'm not sure what they are, but let's just say they're a 1/4 inch. I'm going to leave all my deck boards are going to stay out all going to stay out a 1/4 inch. That way, when I put my fence board up, my deck board will go over top of it, and then I'll put a finished piece of wood to make it look nice. So what I'll do is I'll just do a string line down the whole side, and just cut them all off at the same time. If you cut them all off individually, you got one here, you got one 1/8 of an inch in, 1/8 of an inch out. You cut them all at once. But like I say, I'm going to cut them all. You leave them all out a 1/4 inch if that's what the measurement I'm going to need. Leave them all out a 1/4 inch, and then I'll put my up and down boards to finish it off, and it's going to look nice. So, like I said, 3 screws per board, not 2. Don't use nails. They did that in the 70s. We're not in the 70s anymore. Don't use nails. You want this thing to last. You want it solid. And get those screws and make sure they go into the wood. Don't stop at the top. Let them go into the wood, because that wood is wet and it's going to swell and it's going to cover up your screws. You're not even going to see them. If you don't go into the wood with them, your wood's going to start squeaking when you're walking on it, and that screw's going to be near the surface, and you're going to catch your bare feet on it, you're going to catch your socks on it. Anyways, that's my video for today. If there's something there that I told you that you've never heard of before, then send me a comment. But otherwise, keep watching, and this is my off-grid living. I love it. I've got a 14 by 20 foot deck out there that I built 2 summers ago. I can look out over the lake. This one here is up now off my kitchen. It's a 10 by 15 deck with a roof over it. It's all going to be enclosed. And black flies, you're not welcome. Anyways, have a great day. We'll talk to you in the next video.